Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Pierce College. It is Wednesday night. It's about 9:37 p.m. or 21:37 for those police military types that use 24-hour time, which I use most of the time. That's why my clocks all say that. Just want to give you a brief overview. As I said in the meet and greet video, each week, either the night of class or the next morning, depending on how much time I have and how late we go, I'm going to give you a brief overview. Probably not going to do full lectures of the material that we cover in class, but I do want to give you the high points. Most of those are going to be covered in your assignments and your discussions, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I'm going to give you something. And I do want to make sure everybody's comfortable. If you have any problems at all, do not hesitate to reach out. If you look at the syllabus, my contact information is in the syllabus, and you should use, whenever possible, the Dropbox, because that way we have a record of the messages like I mentioned. But if you use the phone number that's in the syllabus, that'll come right to my phone. You can text me, you can call me. That number will also ring in my house when I'm home during regular hours. I turn it off at night, so nobody's going to wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can text me anytime, and the message, I'll get it in the morning. I would prefer that in case I forget to turn the phone off, that you don't call me between like midnight and actually between 10 and like 7, because I don't want to wake up my wife either, who goes to bed at 10 o'clock. So anyway, our class, and you can see a copy of this if you go into the website, go into the doc sharing, and you look at the category that says lesson plans. You will find each week I will post a weekly lesson plan, which will give you an outline of what I plan to do in class that particular evening. Now, granted, it doesn't always work out that we do exactly what I plan to do, because sometimes some discussions go a little longer than others. But this is the plan, and it gives you a basic idea of what we're doing. So tonight, I always open the class with current events, discuss what's going on, and our big discussion today was obviously the missing persons in Bucks County, the 4 people that the Bucks County prosecutor and all the local police departments and the FBI are involved in searching for these 4 missing men. And of course, we talked about the one, Cosmo DiNardo, who is presently in custody. He was recharged today. He's supposedly a person of interest in the case, which of course, me being a cop from way back, he's a suspect. They just don't want to say it right now because they don't feel they have a strong enough case to say he's a suspect. But back in my day, if you were looking at somebody, they were a suspect until you either cleared them or you arrested them or charged them. So we talked about that case. We talked about his situation. As part of that, I actually showed everybody, since this is a criminal court case, I showed everybody. And I'll put the URL for it in the bibliography in the course, but I showed everybody where you can find court dockets. So in Pennsylvania, you can actually look up anybody who's been arrested and going to a Pennsylvania court in any county in the state of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. You can look at their court information. You can find out what their bail is. You can find out when their next court date is, who the charging agency is, who the arresting officer is, all kinds of cool stuff that's publicly available in the state of Pennsylvania, which is rare. New Jersey, where I worked, does not do that, but I showed everybody how that works in the class. Like I said, I'll put the URL out there so you can see it, and maybe I'll do a short video on how to look stuff up. So we went over the course overview. What's the course about? Being that we're going to look at all kinds of criminal courts. If you look at the meet and greet video, I went through that already for you. What are the expectations? We talked a lot about the importance of proper sourcing, citations, doing proper research, getting the information. We went through the course platform and talked about how the discussion is supposed to be done, and some of you are already doing it. You go into the discussion, and the first thing is you're supposed to do your response, which is a substantive, detailed response. There are instructions in the first week's information about how to do that threaded discussion, so if you read through that, you'll get that information. We also talked about the requirements for the course project, which is also posted in the course, and you should read through that. It's actually a fairly simple project. You have three sets of facts, And at the end of each piece of facts, there's a question that you have to answer. The first one, in the first few weeks of the course, you'll be able to answer that question. So I would suggest that course project, that you do each piece, because you have to label them separately anyway. Do each piece as soon as you get to the point where you understand. So the first question is about some person that got locked up, and you have to say, well, what is the process that they're going to go through? One of the things that we're doing here in class tonight, we watched the first 40 minutes or so of a movie called My Cousin Vinny, which just gives an excellent overview of what the criminal trial process is, from being arrested through the arraignment, through the preliminary hearing, through the criminal trial, all the way through to the end. So we're using that as one way to get people to really get this information. I would suggest, if you have access to that movie, whether through Amazon or Netflix or wherever, that you watch it, because it's really going to give you a good overview of the process, because it takes the criminal trial process step by step. So if you don't already work in the field, I know we have some police officers, some court workers, and other people that are familiar with the process. If you're not familiar with the process, My Cousin Vinny is a hilarious way to get yourself into it. We watched that for the last 40 minutes of class. So we went over all the requirements for the project, the requirements for the assignments. The assignments, basically, if you look at the week 1 assignment, it asks you to answer 4 questions. All of those questions, the answers are in the book. So the book, I think, should be your first source. The assignment says you need to use 3 academic sources. So I would use the book and then find additional sources through the college library website, through the databases that are available to you, and use them to support what you find in the book. If you do it the other way around, people sometimes tend to find information that's not really related to the right topics, and they get confused. I would go to the book first, try to understand it in the book. Hopefully by now you have already read chapter 1 in your book and have a good understanding, and then go in and pick the question that you would like to know more about and have a stronger feeling about, and write that answer. Make sure you properly cite the answer. Make sure, and this is a very important requirement, that you do not copy and paste from the textbook or any other source, except maybe a very little bit if you want to highlight like one sentence or something. The majority of your answer should be in your own words. If you copy and paste your entire answer, you will get a 0. Very simple. So make sure you're doing it right. I sent you all an email tonight, and I also posted in the announcements the resource that the library folks were nice enough to make for us, and it has some videos on doing proper citations, about using the web resources that they have available for us. Take the time to go look at that to make sure that you're on point as to what you need to do. Like I said, we went through the entire course platform, looked at the different links. We actually had one person in the class that had not been at Pierce before, so she was not familiar with how the course platform works that you folks are using. So we walked through all of that. If you have any questions about it, reach out to me. Most people are probably familiar with it. If you're not, I can go over it with you either through an online meeting or on the phone or whatever. It's easier on an online meeting because then I can actually share the screen and click through as I did before. So if I wanted to share the screen and I want to go into the course, and just go into the course or into my thing here. And so, yeah, it's hiding. The only problem is I can't get to it. Oh, here it is. No, not that one. No, not that one. I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. All right, so, oh, that's not it either. This is the library resource page that I sent you. We had a guy from the library come and talk to us tonight. Brett Palmer. That was from like 6 to 7, and it's not in, I forgot that he was coming, so it's not in the lesson plan. But he made up this nice source for us. They have videos that explains. So basically what he did here is an explanation in video to tell you how to find stuff, how to find good information and sources, reference bookshelf, films on demand, EBSCO host. There's a video on plagiarism and APA citations. Please watch that. It's very important. I had a lot of problems with some folks in the last course that I taught. There's a whole list also of bookshelf. These are some books that he selected for us. You can also write the librarians if you have any questions. The course text, if you don't have a copy of your book, someday you're here and you want to work on it, you can go up to the library and you can check out a copy or borrow a copy. He's got some good websites here with some good information. I'll put some others in the bibliography. So that's pretty cool. And I want to click on this one right here. It's not letting me. There it is. So like I said, we went through the course platform, and make sure, oops, somebody else did the quiz. I got 4 people already did the quiz. Make sure that you read the book first and go through the material before you take the quiz, because you only have 1 hour to do it, and you're only allowed to do it once the way this particular course is set up. So make sure you're ready to do the quiz before you do the quiz. So we went through all these things tonight. Technical requirements just tells you what kind of computer you have. It checks your computer and tells you if you have anything wrong. We went through the syllabus. Please read through the syllabus. My contact information is over here. There's a due date form we went through that tells you exactly when everything is due. Very simple. All your assignments are due by like midnight on Tuesday. We have class on Wednesday here on campus, so the assignments are due the night before. If you have any problems, you need to reach out to me. You need to communicate with me. I am very forgiving, but if I don't hear from you, if you're not communicative and you don't reach out to me and you come to me 6 weeks later and you say, well, you know what, in week 2, my car broke down, my computer broke, I couldn't do any assignments, but I haven't heard from you for 4 weeks. How forgiving can I be? The stuff's, way late. But if you stay in touch with me, you tell me about the issues, we work about the issues, then I'll help you out. And we will work together, because I'd rather see you learn something and succeed than fail because of a personal situation that you had no control over. But keep in mind that people who have the will find the way. All right? So that's the due dates. You have the meet and greet, which many of you are already in and have already seen, and I showed you in the other video. There's learning outcomes you can look at if you want to know what's expected. These things here you can't see. They're all hidden from students. Then week 1, as I mentioned, the threaded discussion requirements are right here. Please read through these. And I also put a note in the week 1 discussion about the importance of the answers being substantive. 1 or 2 sentences for your response is not good enough. You have to provide detail explaining the answers to the questions in the discussion. Don't overkill me with your example. I think one person posted like 2 pages worth of law that was copied and pasted out of some law book. I understand that's an example, but I don't need the whole thing. It just, who's going to, I will obviously scan through it, but nobody's going to really read through the whole thing. So post what you need to post, but make sure you post enough. So read through this. This will tell you, and it'll give you some examples of what you're supposed to do in the discussion groups. And down here, it tells you very clearly not to use Wikipedia as one of your sources. All right, so make sure. So then we have the week 1 discussion. All the discussions are basically the same. How it works, you got a question up here, tells you, the question is actually, this is the instructions. The way this one's set up is you're going to find the discussion 1.1. Here's the question. Some people are already working on it. What's an example of substantive law, an example of procedural law, and then explain how they're different. So in the class tonight, we talked about substantive law in the lecture portion. Substantive law basically being what's on the books. What are the elements of a burglary? What does it take to be charged with murder? What's the law that's on the books? And then procedural law is how do we process through the case? So the procedural law would tell us what are the elements of a trial. So what's the trial process? What do we have to do? We have to have arraignment, preliminary hearing, a trial. What are the pieces of the trial? The opening, the closing, the presentation of evidence. Tells us how all that stuff's supposed to be done. And your book explains that as well. So you need to be able to show me that you understand the difference between the two and what they are. And then also provide an example of criminal law, an example of civil law. So criminal law, some people have actually posted actual criminal statutes. So you could give me the statute number and say, the statute for burglary in the state of Pennsylvania, and give an example of what it is. It's State versus Joe Smith committed a burglary, where criminal law is between persons. So let's say in a murder, you could have a person who's tried for murder. Let's say this Bucks County thing turns out to be a mass murder, that this guy, DiNardo, if he killed these 4 guys. So he's going to be charged with 4 separate counts of murder. That's criminal. The families of each of those 4 people have the potential to file civil suits against him for wrongful death for their children. That would be civil. So the families of each of those deceased guys, if they're dead, I'm not saying they are, if they're dead, can file a civil suit for damages against the guy that did it. And that would be money damages usually. Where in a criminal trial, it's something like probation, like jail time or prison time, or in a case in Pennsylvania and like 32 other states, in a murder case, the death penalty. Although Pennsylvania's got a moratorium on it right now, that's criminal. And then to get the process here, you answer that question, you click respond to post your detailed answer to the question, and then you wait a couple days and you look at what everybody else wrote, and then you pick somebody and say, hey, you have to then, like Ramona here did, address this person here and said great points. What you have to do here is give an explanation as to why you agree or disagree with this person. Not just like, hey, you did a great job. It's got to be more detailed than that. So you have to do, at a minimum, you can do more, but at a minimum, you have to do 1 detailed response and 1 reply to 1 other student. Okay, some of the stuff I saw already, I made some comments here, so please read my comments. I'm going to be posting this video in the same spot tonight, so that'll appear here as well. And then when you're ready to do the second one, you click on discussion 2 or 1.2, and the second discussion question will come up down here. And this one is about legalization of drugs. It talks about marijuana being legalized, and then asks you a question about decriminalization of substances like heroin and cocaine. And you have to answer whether you think that is something we should do. Don't just say yes or no. Give us some reasons, some facts as to why you think it should be either decriminalized or not decriminalized. Why is it okay to make marijuana legal but maybe not heroin? I mean, we have a major opioid problem in Philadelphia with 900-something people dying last year, and it's a major problem in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and all over the country. Should we make that stuff legal or not? And you need to support your answer. Give me some facts as to why you believe one way or the other. That's the discussion question. Then you have the assignment. So the assignment, like I said, there's a bunch of questions here. You pick 4 of them. Whatever 4 that you want to answer. Dred Scott case is outlined in your textbook, and it explains why it's significant. The book explains clearly what the functions of law are. And now you don't just answer it like bing, bang, boom. You then explain why is that particular thing a function of law. So answer any 4 of these questions that you have here. All right? And then you're going to submit them to the Dropbox. Make sure, again, you properly cite your sources. You need at least 3 sources for these answers. The first one being your book. 90% of the answers you're going to find in your book, but you need also to have a couple other sources. And then the last thing for the week is the quiz. So you go to this page, week 1 quiz, and I already showed this in class, so I can't click on it. You just click on it. It's a 10-question quiz. You have 1 shot to do this. It's 10 questions. You have an hour to do it. Piece of cake. If you properly prepare yourself. If you go into the textbook, read and highlight, and for some of you, it's a good idea to outline the chapter, and then you'll be ready for the quiz. And then you have an hour. If you've already read and outlined and highlighted the chapter, if you get to a question and you don't know the answer, even though it's true, false, and multiple choice, it should be a piece of cake, you should be able to find it pretty quickly because you've already reviewed it. You can also download the PowerPoint slides from the textbook. They're a little briefer than what's in the textbook, but some of the answers you'll find right there as well. Okay? So the quiz is fairly simple, and that's what you got to do this particular week. Remember, in each week, you'll see, and I wish my Facebook notifications weren't popping up here so you can see who my friends are. But in each week, you see the weekly objectives. You'll see here, it tells you exactly what to do. This is also in the syllabus. So this week, so far, those of you that are attending online should have read the syllabus, read the threaded discussion requirements, post in the meet and greet, and read chapter 1. All right, online assignments, you're supposed to participate in week 1 discussion, 1 and 2. And then before the next class, make sure you take the quiz, complete the week 1 assignment, and submit it to the Dropbox. Remember, it's due by midnight next Tuesday. Again, if you got some problems, you got some issues, I can smell BS a mile away, so be honest. Tell me what's going on, why you couldn't get it done, and I will work with you. But if you don't communicate with me or you lie to me, that's on you. All right? So again, if you have any questions, your first means of communication the college likes is to use this private Dropbox. All right, all the rest of the weeks are similar. The course project is not only outlined in the syllabus, as I talked about, but it's also down here. There's a complete explanation. All right, it tells you exactly what you're supposed to do. You need to submit in week 4 a rough draft. So I should see a rough idea of part 1, 2, and 3. You look at them all and start to work at them. You should be able to answer part 1 very simply by that time, because all it is what's the process. And my cousin Vinny tells you what the process is. And then week 7, you need to tell me, you need to submit the whole thing. Very simple. You got a fact pattern, you got a question, you got a fact pattern, and in this question, in part 2, you're looking for any issues or problems that occurred during this fact pattern. And then part 3 is Michael was convicted of first-degree murder. What's next? So basically, you got to explain, what's the process for appealing a criminal case after you've lost it. The last thing down here is an extra credit quiz. Here's an explanation of it. Here's the click to go through it. So this is just like all the rest of the weekly quizzes. You'll have this page pop up. You click to begin the quiz. You got 1 shot, takes 2 hours. Do that at the end of week 7, because you're going. It's something that is all the information that you've gathered throughout the course. You have 2 hours to do it. It's free. It doesn't hurt you at all, but it can help you. It might be the difference between an A and a B and a C, whatever. So make sure that you take it, but do it at the end of the course after you've read all the chapters that are required for the course and you've outlined them and all that. And after you've taken all the other quizzes, because many of the questions that are in the extra credit quiz you have already seen in the regular quizzes. So make sure that you do that. All right, there's a link for the library. There's a link for help research and writing. Also remember, if you do have problems researching and writing, besides this link, you can also go to the Walker Center on campus and get a tutor to help you. All right. So the lecture we kind of did off the cuff because we wanted to watch the movie. We talked about all the topics that are in the PowerPoint that is posted in the course for you. Then we watched the 40 minutes worth of My Cousin Vinny, and we'll watch the rest of it next week. So some of the main points that you need to make sure that you understand, and I just kind of talked about them, are substantive law, procedural law, criminal law, and civil law. Those are the topics of your discussion question, and those are also the main topics of our lecture this evening to understand. You also need to know what administrative law is. Administrative law are the regulations that are made by all kinds of agencies within the executive branch of government. Substantive law are those laws that are created by the legislature that are on our books. Procedural law are the laws that tell us how we do things within the system. Criminal law is laws for things like burglary, murder, rape, robbery, sexual assault, whatever. Civil law are what we've also called tort law. So if you wrong somebody, if you do something against somebody, that's the law. That's called civil law. So that's when you sue someone. When you sue another person, that's civil law. There's also, as I said, administrative law made by different government agencies. Case law is decided by the courts. So something like the gay marriage ruling that the Supreme Court did recently, that's case law. Those who are familiar with the Roe versus Wade decision on abortion from the 70s, that's case law, which it wasn't decided by the legislature, but decided by the courts, and then it becomes the law of the land when the Supreme Court decided. Something like criminal justice, the Miranda decision, is case law. And how a lot of times how police departments and courts do things sometimes comes out of court decisions. like the situation with regard to President Trump's travel ban. The Supreme Court has made a decision on that, and they're going to review it in October. That would be case law. All right, so make sure you understand for today's lesson, you need to just understand what those various types of law are. They're basically definitional, and if you have any questions, reach out to me. But it's all pretty clearly in this first chapter in your textbook. All right, that should be it. So remember, everything's due by Tuesday at midnight. Again, if you have any questions, my contact information is in the syllabus. If you can't find My Cousin Video on Amazon or Netflix or something, I got it at Walmart for $5, either in one of those bins or in the racks of old movies. It's probably there. They had multiple copies at the Walmart in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, or actually I was in Somerdale, New Jersey, but they probably have it at other places too. Walmart has a whole lot of that stuff, but I also think I got it off of Amazon as well. You don't have to do it, but I would strongly recommend it because it's a really, really cool, funny way to learn what the criminal trial process is and to help you better understand it. And it's hilarious as well. All right. Thank you very much, folks. Have a good evening. I hope you're all well. And remember, get it done right, get it done on time. Good night.